Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cornell Cooperative Extension. My name is Mike Danaher. I'm an Assistant Attorney General with the New York State Attorney General's Office. It's a pleasure to be here today for our monthly consumer issue program. Today we're going to talk about a relatively generic topic of consumer rights and responsibilities in the marketplace. I know that we touch on specific consumer-related topics throughout the course of the year, and this is kind of a mishmash of everything, just to reiterate what the consumer's rights and responsibilities are. It's good for us at this time of the year, although it doesn't seem like it by the temperature or the calendar, but we are fast approaching the holiday season. And for those of you out in TV land, those of you who are watching this by the time this gets posted, we all know that the holiday shopping season seems to get earlier and earlier every year. And so we'll probably be in the throes of it at the time that is being shown. So it's a good time for us to sit back and think about ways in which we can be a good consumer in knowing our rights, and good consumers in effectively exercising our responsibilities so that we know that we're making a good decision, a smart consumer-related decision. And it kind of narrows down into one rule for consumer rights and one rule for consumer responsibilities. As far as the rights go, consumers must be placed, and the law attempts to place, consumers on an equal footing with businesses that they are dealing with. So the laws give us our consumer rights, and there are a whole host of those, general and particular, that we'll touch on in a little while. But also, a lot of things that we don't think about is that consumers also have responsibilities. Consumers must take advantage of that equal footing that's given to them to make sound buying decisions. So the laws are out there not to give the consumer any particular advantage. What they're designed to do is to help level the playing field. But in leveling the playing field, consumers have to exercise those rights in order to protect themselves. Again, the consumer laws are not designed to do anything other than to help protect consumers. Let's face it, in the transaction out there, merchants usually have a natural upper hand going into the transaction. Why? Well, usually they're larger. Their focus is in that particular business. They know what products will do and what products won't do, what services will be provided and what services won't be provided. They know what their cost is associated with that product. They know what they have to sell that product or service for in order to make a profit or to cover their expenses. And usually, they're the experts in the field. You walk into a computer store, they're the experts. We just want to be able to turn the thing on and search the internet and type our documents and do all that. But they know the internal workings, and they know what that computer will do or what that software will do. We as consumers may not be as savvy or as knowledgeable about those. There are some consumers that are more so than others, but they are usually the experts, and consumers are not. In some instances, consumers really don't know if what they're getting is a good deal or a bad deal. They don't know initially going in without any other investigation. They may not know if this is a good price or not a good price. That's why we have to exercise our responsibilities. What does a good consumer do? A good consumer will investigate, determine what it is that they actually need, and that's often different than what they actually want. So we have to differentiate between what our needs are and what our wants are. Know what it is that we're trying to accomplish. do some background investigation, which in this day is so much easier than it was before to do investigations, and to figure out what it is that will accomplish what that need is. The worst thing that we can do as a consumer is to go in blindly and have somebody else convince us what it is that we need. Because really what they're trying to convince you of or try to exploit is what our wants are. And if we really focus and drill down to what it is that we need to accomplish, we'll go much better along the way in getting a good deal, and also getting what our ultimate goal is, and that is what it is that we're trying to accomplish and what our need is. We can use the classic example of a car purchase. You just walk into a dealership and say, hey, I want a new car. That would get someone on the other side salivating and saying, okay, we can kind of mold this person to this really expensive car over here. It has all the bells and whistles. I mean, how can you possibly live without having your car tell you to slow down and will automatically slow you down when you get close to them? Or it sends all kinds of bells and whistles to you if somebody's in your lane or in the passing lane before you pull out. And you can have all kinds of stuff on your dashboard with this type of music and that type of music and this type of thing and that type of thing and all that. And finally you say, wow, yeah, I need all that. When maybe you didn't. Going in with the tools that are available to us, we can do all this investigation and figure out, yeah, I need that. No, I don't need that. I can get away without this. And so you can narrow it down and go in. Then you're on an even footing. In fact, in this day and age, there are even resources available to get an idea. It's not a definitive black and white, it's or a particular line, but to get an idea what you can expect to have to pay for something like that. So there are many websites that are available out there, very reputable ones that are available out there, that you can do some investigation and figure out, okay, at least to start narrowing down the search to say, you know, I'd like to have a car that I can afford at this much, and I won't go into the whole scenario just because we do spend a whole session on purchasing of vehicles. But you kind of can narrow it down to say what you can afford, what it's going to cost you. You'll know what it's going to cost you in total price. You'll understand by doing a little research what the interest rates are on loans if you need a loan. And you can figure out what price of car with how much mileage, and kind of narrow it down into the different types of categories of cars that you might like, so that you kind of have an idea. So that you know going in of kind of what you could afford, the type of car that you kind of want, what kind of mileage you want on it, and that narrows your search down so that you aren't just going out saying, okay, show me what you have. So consumers can find a way to get an idea of what a good price would be, what it is that the product is that they want and need, and what that product will do. The laws are designed to actually just level that playing field. Again, it's not designed to give any party, consumer or business, a unique advantage. It's not entitled to do that. For example, some of what I consider to be the consumer protection laws that are out there. One is we have a statute in New York, an actual law in New York, that makes false advertising illegal. We also have another related law in New York that makes it illegal for businesses to engage in fraudulent or deceptive business practices. And fraud is broadly defined so that taking the specific statute of false advertising, there can be such things as they are advertisements that are deceptive in leading consumers to do things that they would not have ordinarily known had they known the true facts or additionally, all of the facts. For example, false advertising would consist of a business advertising 50% off sale. But they offer the 50% off all the time. So then it's not 50% off. It's misleading. Because I know if those of you out there are like my wife, who repeatedly assures me she never pays full price for anything. Never. And she's a great shopper. She is great. But what if somebody was advertising all the time, 50% off, and someone who's not a in-depth shopper and doesn't do their investigation looks up things and says, wow, I'm going to buy this thing because it's 50% off. When you find out that in actuality, that item is always that price. It's not truly 50% off. The usual and customary price that they're offering the item for is that price. They just happen to say it's 50% off. There's always the old time. I don't see it as frequently anymore. But there's always the old time deal where the price was always the same, but the amount off changed. So one time it'd be a 50% off. One it would be a 30% off. One would be a 20% off, but the price was always $59.95. That is false advertising. It's deceptive. It has to be a true and actual 50% off. And there are standards out there for what it is, for what a percentage off constitutes. There's some rules issued by the Federal Trade Commission that it has to be 50% off what the customary price is in that market, generally speaking, or 50% off of what this particular merchant offers the item for on a customary and usual basis. Another false advertising would be a thing called bait and switch. You hear about these bait and switches. That's a common term that's used in the false advertising area. And bait and switch is where someone is baiting you into the store, just like in the old fishing scenario where you throw the bait out. What's that intended to do? The bait's intended to draw the fish in so that you can hook them on your line and reel them in. Same thing here. There are bait and switches where the merchant, through advertising, baits someone to come into the store with this great deal that's offered. And when the person shows up, the item is never available, or there was only one of those, and so somebody came in early and bought it, and it drew in 50 other people later, and the response by the merchant is, sorry, we had that item, we only had one of them. But we have this nice item that's $100 more expensive, much better than the one that we had offered. Why don't you buy this one instead? That would be a bait, and then switching you over to something else. And under the bait and switch scenario, if a merchant is advertising an item at a particular price, they have to have a reasonable number of those items at that price in order to satisfy expected demand. Not just one. If they're expecting, this is going to drive people into our store, like crazy, we'll just advertise one of them or two of them, knowing that there's going to probably be 50 people in here looking for that particular item, and we'll be able to sell them something else. That would be considered a bait and switch. The other thing would be to say, well, when you came in and they say, yeah, we did offer that item and it really is a good price and we have that item available, but you know what? That item's a piece of junk. really, that's not going to satisfy your needs. We want you to buy this thing that's $300 more. That really is the thing that will satisfy you. That would be a bait and switch. They bait you in under, in essence, false pretenses and then switch you over to something else. So again, it's not designed to give the consumer a particular advantage. It's really designed to be fair. Be fair. If you offer that item at that particular price, is it going to be fair that a reasonable expected number of consumers who come in will be able to get that item at that price? If not, it'd be a bait and switch. Our office has had many instances where we have gone after businesses for illegal and deceptive business practices. And businesses have had to, as a result, pay significant civil penalties for coming in and or for advertising or drawing in consumers under false pretenses. I've recently had a case in the Binghamton area that drew consumers not only from New York, but actually from all over the world, in to participate in a postgraduate basketball school or business. They would draw people in claiming all these great things about it's the #1 program in the Northeast, which was not verified in any way whatsoever and was not. That it was offering a college-like experience for people because they were post-high school. They're just out of high school. They didn't go on to college right away. They're going to take this, hoping that they would be recruited by all these colleges to come play basketball there. And it turns out that they would be put in inferior quality accommodations. They had a mandatory meal plan that the reports and complaints that came into us were that the meals were just not they were inferior. It was advertised that the meals were prepared by a top chef. Not the case. There was a picture of the private restaurant that they would be eating in, and in actuality, it did not fairly and accurately represent what the accommodations were for that. There were a whole host of problems with it. Consumers left the program quite early, claiming that, hey, I wasn't given anything that I had expected, and asked for refunds, and the business said, oh, I'm sorry, our policy is no refunds. And so people were spending tens of thousands of dollars to join this program when, in fact, they weren't given what was expected of them. That was an illegal, deceptive business practice on top of the fact that it was false advertising, to where we brought a proceeding and obtained a judgment for a significant amount of money for restitution for those consumers who complained to our office and were entitled to a refund. We even had a consumer who paid a deposit and was unable to obtain a visa because they were from out of the country to come to the United States to participate in this program. And when the consumer went back to the program and said, I'm sorry, it's not under my control. They wouldn't issue me a visa to come into the United States. The response was, sorry, there's no refunds. And so the people had to eat the money. So we have brought numerous cases for that. Other misleading tactics can be, for example, where consumers are led into believing that 100% of their charitable donation may be going to a particular cause, when in fact that is not true. It could be misrepresenting the results of a weight loss program. That's why you'll see lots of times, if you really focus on those ads for those programs, where they have the picture of the not obese, but chunky guy. And then the picture afterwards of him standing there flexing his muscles, and that I lost 50 pounds in a day and a half. And, that is going to entice the consumer to say, wow, if that really can happen. And you'll see lots of times in the bottom of those advertisements that they have that usual phrase, and probably all of you out there will know what it is, and it is results may vary. So this is not the typical person that is coming out of this weight loss program. They have to absolutely fairly and accurately represent that the product will do what they say, and if there isn't, there should be clearly and conspicuously disclosing what may be different for the usual person. And I'll take the example and I'll harken back to the advertisement of this particular product that you're getting a really good price on, and it's advertised at that price. You will frequently see, hopefully, in your newspaper, if it's offering these sorts of things, that they'll have in the ad, they'll disclose, they may say, we have 5 at this price. So they actually disclose what the number may be. Another thing that we would like to know going in is another example of a consumer protection law that's out there is there's a law in New York about stores posting their return policy. Worst thing that can happen is us going in, we buy something, we go to take it back, and say, oh, sorry, all sales final. We have absolutely no use for that product, and we don't, or worse, that it doesn't work properly. But if it said all sales are final, if we didn't know about that until we went back to the store to return it, that would be unfair to the consumer. So there are actually provisions in New York that the store's return policy must be posted at or near the checkout area so that consumers know beforehand that the item that they're purchasing, there is a certain expectation of what would happen if the consumer wanted to return it. If the store only offers store credit upon a return, again, it's got to be posted so that the consumer knows what they can expect when they go to buy the thing. So if the store's return policy is cash back, full cash back, on no less than 30 days return policy, then it otherwise has to be posted. So if the return policy is, hey, we'll give you complete cash back within 30 days of returning the product, then everybody's okay with that. But if it's something other, like it's only store credit, or we're only going to give you cash back for the 10 days after you purchase it, that policy must be posted so the consumer knows what it is at the time that it was posted. Interestingly, in my case that we had with the postgraduate basketball program, their return policy was no returns, no refunds. But the only place that you knew that was more recently, after people started to complain, they started adding it to the bottom of the receipt. Well, what good did that do consumers? Because you only get a receipt after you pay it. So people would pay it, they'd ultimately get a receipt by email, and the email at the bottom of it says, no refunds. Well, if they had known that ahead of time, in our circumstance, there were several consumers that paid deposits and really had a difficult time coming up with the rest of the money to pay for the full tuition for this program, as it was quite expensive. And they'd say, they paid the first $2,000. Then they made another periodic payment. And then they said, you know what? I can't afford this any longer. We can't send my son to this program. So they would contact the business, and the business would say, oh, I'm sorry, there's no refunds. So then the consumer was stuck. And in some instances, the parents had to take out significantly high interest rate loans because they didn't want to lose the money that they had already paid in order to pay the balance, and then they were stuck. So those types of things must be disclosed, or it would be considered to be false advertising or deceptive business practice. Another thing is that we see frequently are people's belief that for some reason they always have 3 business days to cancel. We see it all the time. I see it a lot of times in car purchases for some reason. Somebody goes in, they buys the car, big sale that weekend, they decide to buy it, they sign the papers, and on Monday they go, I can't afford this car. And they want to go to cancel the deal and say, well, my 3 business days to cancel. There's not 3 business days to cancel. I don't know why people have come to that conclusion, but it is rare in a consumer purchasing transaction that there are 3 business days to cancel. I think you're better off taking the assumption that there are not 3 business days to cancel and then work from there. And then if you find out that your transaction was one that actually there were 3 business days to cancel, you can say, whew, bonus. But take the position that there are not 3 business days to cancel. But I will tell you that in some circumstances there are. There are limited circumstances so that people understand those. One is a door-to-door sale. So if somebody comes to you knocking, the old 1960s Fuller brush man comes to the door and knocks on the door and wants to sell you something, or the vacuum cleaner salesman that wants to throw dirt on your carpet and then vacuum it up to show you how great a job the vacuum does, and you buy it right there because wow, this is a great vacuum cleaner and it's a great price today because they gave us 50% off. Too bad it was 400% overpriced and then they gave you 50% off. But be that as it may, you buy it. The law does provide that in a door-to-door sale, people have 3 business days to cancel. Because by its nature, it's an inherently forceful transaction. It's an inherently high-pressure sale when somebody comes into your domain because you can't leave. It's your house. However, if you went into somebody else's business, you could always walk away. So you could just get up and walk away. If somebody's in your house, you got to throw them out the door. So it's considered to be an inherently pressured transaction. So the law has been adopted to say, in those situations where it really is a high pressure sale, where you can't get up and walk away, you have 3 business days to cancel. That's one. Another one, under similar circumstances, are telemarketing sales. In other words, somebody's invading your territory, making a call to you and offering you a sale. You can't see the product because it's coming to you over the telephone. So you are given, in those circumstances, 3 business days to cancel. The other one is home improvement transactions. So when you undertake a home improvement, interestingly, the home improvement would fall into 2 categories in most instances. One, it's the home improvement, which gives you the 3 business days to cancel. And lots of times it's considered to be a door-to-door sale because the person comes out to your house and gives you the estimate at your house, so you fall kind of under both umbrellas. But with a home improvement transaction, you also have 3 business days to cancel that transaction. So what needs to happen in those circumstances is if you sign a contract to have a home improvement transaction done, home improvement work done, the merchant should actually wait 3 days to do the work, because they could start the next day and you could cancel, and you'd have every right to cancel the transaction within that 3 business days. So to protect everybody, you can expect to have there to be some lapse from the time you contract it till the work is actually done. There's one caveat to that with a home improvement, and that is if it's a legitimate emergency that needs to be done, you can't wait the 3 days. That is the only circumstance where the 3 days can be waived. But the only way that 3 days can be waived, if in his or her own handwriting, the consumer, the homeowner, writes out the reason for the emergency and their express waiver of the 3 days to cancel. So let's use the example. Your furnace goes on January 2nd. You can't wait 3 days to get the furnace fixed or replaced. The contractor comes out to your house, yeah, your furnace is shot, you need a new one. You know, if you wait the 3 days, your pipes are going to freeze, the whole thing. You write out, homeowner, I really need a new furnace. It's an emergency to have this furnace installed. I am willing to waive the 3-day right to cancel. You sign it. That's the only circumstance. I've had situations where the home improvement contractor had it either embedded in the form itself or typed in the form himself, saying, I agree to waive the 3 business days, and say, okay, homeowner, you got to sign right here. And then try to rely on that as the waiver of 3 days. That doesn't work. The consumer has to waive it. The consumer has to waive it affirmatively, acknowledged by themselves, and then they can waive it. Other than that, home improvement contracts, 3 business days to cancel. So contractors, you will be well served in waiting the 3 days until after the contract is signed in order for there to start any work or expend any money, because then you run the risk of losing what you have put into it. So other than those circumstances, there is no 3 business days to cancel. The one other proviso is if it involves financing. The consumer is given 3 days to cancel from complete notification of what the financing terms are. How much is being financed, what the interest rate is, what the monthly payment is, and what length of time is it going to be to pay it back. You may see that in a larger valued transaction, a car purchase, that sort of thing. That's the scenario that would protect the consumer in a car purchase, is if there's financing associated with the car purchase, and they would be given 3 business days to cancel from being notified of what the terms of a financing transaction are. So that's the potential out there. So there are all types of things that at least protect the consumer to make it a level playing field. There's a whole host of those out there. It's impossible for me to go through every one that's out there, but I can throw out a few other particulars. Going out of business sales. New York requires that a business to do certain things if they're going to have a going out of business sale, and that's principally to assure that they're going out of business. You can't have a going out of business sale every week. It just shows that you're not going out of business. And why? And why is it deceptive to consumers? Consumers believe that if there's a going out of business sale, that there is there's a situation where somebody's trying to really cut their prices to close everything out and get out the door. And they think, oh man, I'm going to get a great deal because the company's going out of business. Well, in order to go out of business, the business actually has to file with the municipal clerk, it would be the village clerk, city clerk, town clerk, a notice of the terms of their going out of business sale, so that at least there's some place that somebody can go and look it up. The sale can only be for a limited period of time. At that time, at the end of that time, the business got to be going out and gone. I had a situation of a case a long time ago of a furniture retailer who had a going out of business sale in a municipality and never filed anything about it. It was a big retailer, and people were going in thinking they were going to get a great deal. And then the other thing is you can't keep adding inventory. Get shipments in and keep selling stuff out the door. And what it actually was the business was not going out of business. The business was moving to another municipality that was contiguous to the one where the current store was. So it's just a store move. They moved from one store to the other, and whatever they had left over, they were going to pull over to the new store. They didn't file anything. They announced it was a going out of business sale, and people thought that they were going to get all kinds of deals and that it was great, when in fact what it was just it was a typical sale day, and they were going on, and they had to pay significant fines and penalties. We have certain laws, automobile lemon laws that are out there to protect the consumer from getting a lemon. We talk about that at one of our other sessions, so I won't go into the particulars of it, but there's actually a pet lemon law. There's a lemon law that if you go into a pet dealer and purchase an animal, you take Fluffy the cat, and you have a very short period of time, a very short window, to take that pet to your own vet to have the pet examined, and if the pet has some congenital defect or a disease or something that renders the animal sick, you can actually return the pet to the dealer, and the dealer is required to give you your money back. So that's out there. There are laws that require, again, just to protect the consumers, require businesses that are not using their own name to file with the county clerk a business certificate. I refer to it as a DBA certificate. If you're doing business under an assumed name, you have to file something so that the consumer knows who to look to if they have a problem. For example, if someone is operating a store as Ithaca Body Salon, and you go in to have some saloning done, and you get hurt, a massage, and somebody injures you or something, and you say, well, who is it that I was at? And all of a sudden the doors are closed. Who do I find? That entity should have filed. It could be an individual. It could be a corporation under a different name. They should have filed something in the Tompkins County Clerk's office saying it's Joni Smith doing business as Ithaca Body Salon or Body Works. And then you could go to the county clerk's office and look up the name, Ithaca Body Works, and find out that it really is Joni Smith. And Joni Smith address is such and such. So you can find that person. Or a corporation should do the same thing. So again, not to give anybody an advantage, but at least to make it fair and to level the playing field. Our office has always handled different issues related to illegal, deceptive, fraudulent business practices. So if anyone out there believes that they may have been a victim of such things, feel free to contact our office. As a matter of fact, if anybody ever has a problem with a business, they didn't get what they ordered, the return policy, they didn't get their cash back, anything related to a consumer with a business, you can feel free to contact our office and file a complaint. We offer a mediation service where people can file complaints. We send the complaint to the merchant. We don't take sides. We just try to resolve the complaint. It helps us to also be aware of what's going on out there in case we see that there might be a business that's engaged in illegal, fraudulent, deceptive business practices, and it will tip us off. So we encourage you to do that. You can easily contact our office. We're right up there with the technology now as well. People can file complaints online at ag.ny.gov. That's our main website. You can just go on there and get the consumer complaint form or fill out the consumer complaint form and send it in. We'd be glad to help you. Or if you have a consumer complaint or consumer issue, feel free to contact us. We have staff available that if they can't take your call right away, they will get back in touch with you. For those of you that were here today, thank you very much for joining us. Those of you out in television land, come join us sometime. We are here at Cornell Cooperative Extension on Willow Avenue in Ithaca on the second Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. where we put on the consumer program. You can come and be on TV with us. As well as after we're done taping the shows, we often have questions from people on the topics that we talked about or on an unrelated consumer topic that I'll try to answer for you or give you some type of guidance of where you might be able to turn. In case anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. And if not, thank you again for joining us, and hopefully we will see you here again sometime. Thank you.